When choosing a keyboard, you're often faced with a decision: standard profile or low profile. And once you make that choice, you're usually locked in. But what if you didn't have to choose? What if one keyboard let you switch between both? This is the Kick75, NuPhy's latest 75% keyboard, designed to support both standard and low profile configurations. It's an ambitious idea, but NuPhy definitely has the experience in this space to support it. With the success of their Halo and Air keyboard lines, they've already proven that they can deliver compelling products in both profiles. But a good idea is one thing, how well it's executed is another. Does the Kick75 deliver on this idea? Let's take a look at what's in the box. Along with the keyboard itself, we also get the usual NuPhy accessories: a hybrid keycap and switch puller, a USB cable, the wireless USB receiver, and some spare keycaps for Windows and Mac OS compatibility. The Kick75 will retail starting at $89, but the price scales up depending on whether you choose low or high profile, and also whether you opt for NuPhy IO or QMK firmware for the PCB. Once you've chosen your base configuration, you'll also be able to switch between low and standard heights using a converter kit that NuPhy is selling separately. There are 4 switch options for both heights: red, silver, brown, and blush. The low-profile switches are a result of NuPhy and Gateron's collaboration to develop the Nano line of low-profile switches. Most notably, these switches are compatible with the traditional 5-pin socket structure, and they also have an impressive total travel distance of 3.5 millimeters, which by now is a distance that many of us are comfortable with given the popularity of long-pole switches. NuPhy has always been a design-forward company, and in my opinion, they've done an excellent job with the Kick75 design. Departing from the Air and Halo designs, which mix metal and plastic materials, this keyboard is an all-plastic entry-level successor featuring an entirely new design language while maintaining exceptional typing feel and sound. If you follow the design journey of the Kick75, it's actually an idea that the NuPhy design team has chipped away at since 2022. This was when the first rendered sketch for the Kick series was completed, and at that time, the team took inspiration from the iconic Nike Air Force One sneaker, which you can see reflected in the silhouette of the bottom case. Expanding on this foundation, the Kick75 launches now with a clear nostalgic theme. It gives a nod to classic 8-bit retro gaming, but also has clear references to the Nintendo 64 and clear plastics era of game console controllers. From a functional perspective, the Kick75 has everything you need for a modern keyboard offering. It's compatible with both Mac OS and Windows, and you can connect the keyboard using wireless, Bluetooth, or wired connections. The keyboard boasts a 1000 Hz polling rate when connected through the wireless receiver, and the battery should last you almost 300 hours without backlighting or 60 hours with backlighting. There's also a knob that controls volume by default, but you can further customize it through either NuPhy IO or VIA, depending on the version you opt for. As we've come to expect with any NuPhy launch, there are also a few optional add-ons specifically made for the Kick75. Unlike the usual acrylic wrist rests offered by NuPhy, this is a faux leather wrist rest that is surprisingly plush and comfortable. Using the magnetic tray underneath the wrist rest, it also has 2 height options to accommodate the Kick75 in both low and standard height configurations. Moving on to the swappable top cover kit. This is the add-on that allows you to convert between low and standard profiles. Essentially, it's a spare top cover that comes with the appropriately sized layers of foam and a knob extension for the higher height. In my case, my base model came with the low profile configuration, and so I need this swappable kit for transitioning to the higher profile. Taking the keyboard apart is fairly easy. The case is held together by 8 screws and 4 cable connections, so do be careful not to tug the PCB too aggressively when taking it apart. In its stock form, the Kick75 comes with a PC plate as standard, but you'll also be able to purchase aluminum and palm plates if those are more to your taste. Both low and high profile configurations come with the appropriately sized switch and plate foam layers, so you'll need to swap these out when changing heights. There are no flex cuts to the plate or PCB, and the keyboard uses a pretty standard gasket mounting style. Stabilizers are frequently a sensitive topic, but I've always found NuPhy stabilizers to be well tuned enough out of the box that I've never bothered to re-lube or replace them with third-party options. This is the case too for the Kick75, as the stock stabilizers are lubed well and perform as you would expect any other stabilizer to. However, there is something unique about the mechanics of these stabilizers. They function like plate-mounted stabilizers that can also clip in to the PCB using these cutouts. And this is so that the same set of stabilizers can be utilized when changing between low and high profile configurations. When mounted on the PCB, it supports low profile switches, and on the other hand, when mounted on the plate, it supports standard height MX switches. After relocating the stabilizers to the plate and placing the standard height foam layers onto the PCB, the Kick75 is now ready for the high-profile top case, after which you can leverage your own collection of standard MX switches and keycaps, or opt for one of NuPhy's many offerings. NuPhy took a bold step with the Kick75, merging two switch profiles into a single keyboard. It's a unique concept, one that offers even more options than what we're already used to seeing in mechanical keyboards. Having options alone does not make a keyboard great, but at its core, the Kick75 is an entry-level keyboard with strong fundamentals. It has solid build quality despite being fully plastic. The wireless performance was reliable for me, it feels great to type on, and personally, I think it has a beautiful design that feels both modern and nostalgic at the same time. I mentioned this earlier, but NuPhy to me has always been a design-first company. They have always had a strong eye for aesthetics, and anytime you see a product from NuPhy, you can almost immediately tell that you're looking at a NuPhy product. So for me, the design of this keyboard stands out, and I appreciate that NuPhy is pushing the boundaries of keyboard design with the low-high profile switching function. But whether or not this hybrid approach is truly useful will really depend on who you are. If you're someone who's either fairly new to mechanical keyboards or maybe someone who suspects they may like a low-profile keyboard, I think this is a pretty attractive option at this price. You can experiment with different keyboard heights and switches, and besides case material, there's really nothing that is limiting you with this keyboard. However, if you've been in this space for years and you know exactly what you're looking for, it's likely that you're going to be just like me, where the design and aesthetics of the board are what might compel you to the Kick75. But of course, that's not always going to be enough for people to pull the trigger. Regardless, it's always great to see when companies push the boundaries in the mechanical keyboard space. And in a market full of micro iterations and the same keyboards offered under different names, it's really refreshing to see a product that tries something different. And so those are my thoughts on the Kick75, but I'd love to know what you think about it in the comments. I've kept the sound test of the keyboard at the end of the video, but do let me know what you think about that as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.